This episode is powered by Act Now Education. Go to www.actnoweducation.com for free comprehensive educational resources and opportunities for active duty, veterans, military spouses, and children.
Motivation lasts a day, but inspiration lasts a lifetime. So I don't focus on trying to help people by motivating them. I try to, have a lasting impression.
Warriors, fall in. It's time for formation. Today I'm joined with a very active Act Now Education board member. And unlike many other situations, being a board member for Act Now Education is a very tall order in itself, because it means you've spent hundreds of hours helping the 50,000 plus community who are considered part of the Act Now Education family. The gentleman that I have on today is also a certified Scrum Master. He spent 9 years in the Army and currently serves as an IT security support specialist for Bank of America. And he serves as a volunteer software engineer for Act Now Education. So I'd like to welcome Marion Simon today for the Morning Formation Podcast. How you doing today?
Doing great. Pleasure to be here, KP.
Listen, man, the pleasure's all mine. I've been trying to make my rounds with all the folks with Act Now Education on top of the list of guests that I have wanting to be on the podcast. And I've been really focusing on having more of a priority towards Act Now Education because I like to push more people towards the great nonprofit group that we're both a part of. So I really appreciate you for being on the show, because a lot of times people don't see some of the background workers who are making it happen. So thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And just want to start things off by talking about the type of volunteer work that you've conducted for Act Now Education, and why do you do it?
So most of the work I've done is around the site that everyone loves to go visit, see all the resources that are available to them. I would say the reason I do it, it's mostly just because I feel like a lot of times being in the service and then transitioning out, the biggest thing is like the questions you have is the things you don't know. And then Act Now kind of provides you those resources or provides you that insight that you might not have even thought to look into or even ask. So I feel like being a part of giving back what information I have is in any shape, way, or form, then I'll do it.
So is that kind of a pain point for you? When you transitioned out of the military, did you find it frustrating to figure out what your next step was going to be when you made your career transition out of the Army?
I would say it wasn't a pain point for me, but I noticed a pain point in like the troops that I had that that got out or transition, or even people that are retiring, and they're these are the things I hear them talking about. So like for me, my entire time I probably spent was more or less planning on how I was going to get out, based on the feedback I was hearing from everyone else. So I was able to kind of I didn't have the same experience that most people probably had when they transitioned, because like I just spent years just planning just that moment, to make sure that I was okay.
Yeah. You sound a lot like me. I don't know if you accepted the outside help when you transitioned out, but when I transitioned out, I did everything sort of on my own, and I was very limited and I guess a little bit ignorant when it came to accepting outside help to do things like look at my resume, to take into consideration other avenues, other industries to jump into. It sounds like you made a little bit more of a smart move as far as transition wise. When I left, I became part of the 70+% of military veterans that quit their first job within the first year of leaving service. So I didn't land exactly on my feet when I got out of the military, but it sounds like you did. Now, did you ever become frustrated whenever you tried to help anyone else out as you were transitioning out of the military, whether it was one of your own soldiers and maybe you were trying to give them some valuable advice on really examining the resume, or perhaps getting certifications or going to the education center over wasting their time?
Yes, I think that was probably the thing that frustrated me the most. Because just me in general, I'm like, if I know information, if I know something, I'm going to tell you about it, especially if I know it's going to benefit you. And I'll tell you once, I'll tell you twice, I'll tell you three times, and then after that point, I'm just like, I've given you the knowledge. You decide how you want to use it. If you choose not to, that's up to you. But it will always be based around like, hey, go to school. Hey, if you're not going to go to school, get some certs. It doesn't matter if you're going to not use the certs while you're in the service. It's about what you're going to do when you get out of the service. It's like, 'cause that's the first thing you're thinking about is like you want to get a job, right? And you're like, oh man, I can make all this money when I get out of the military. But then you don't think about all the things that you got to do in order to kind of be up there. It's not like I'm just a veteran, so hire me. That doesn't work.
Hmm.
It
Oh
doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't work at all. It
Oh,
might get them a thank you for your service, but
yeah.
that's where it stops.
Honestly, yeah, that conversation, that oh how cool conversation will last for about 5 to 10 minutes when you're sitting across from a recruiter looking to hire you, and then after that, they're gonna ask those questions on what can you do for me and what can you do for this company, and that's when you really get challenged. And I asked you that question mainly because I've been frustrated before, and I know that you're a very passionate person when it comes to helping others, caring about the person to your left and to your right. I know that about you because you're a board member for Act Now Education, and spending all the hours that you spent working on the nonprofit organization, it really takes someone who has that passion. And that's why I asked you that question specifically. But why did you decide to specifically reach back and serve our military community through Act Now Education? Why Act Now Education over all the other nonprofits out there?
So I would say it was mostly because I was in the group,
Mm,
but I was kind of like silent warrior. I was there. I was, seeing the resources, but rather than just seeing it, I was kind of like looking into them, taking advantage of the whatever information that I could. And then as I was transitioning, I happened to be working with Mickey, and then Mickey's like, "Oh, I'm a part of this, this great organization." I was like, "Huh,
mm.
that's interesting." I was like, which one?" And she tells me this, it's Act Now, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's also good to know." So when I saw an opportunity to kind of like volunteer, because I don't, I think volunteering is just, you know, it's not just good for you; it's just good for whatever cause you're doing it for. And I just decided, hey, Act Now is where it's at. So let me
Yeah,
just go in and do what I can because at least I know in some capacity I'm going to be helping somebody,
no doubt.
even if they don't know.
Right, no doubt. And that's why you're on the show today, because I want people to see the folks who are behind the scenes building the, I guess, the overall machine that is Act Now Education. It's so easy for people to go to the actnoweducation.com website and not even think twice about, who engineered this, who put this together. It literally takes hundreds and hundreds of hours. And I know the frustration. I mean, I work in podcasting, and I can tell you that even as a big dummy like me trying to figure things out, man, it's so frustrating. So it's such a refreshing thing to have someone like you on the team, really pushing for our overall cause for Act Now Education. Now, how long have you been part of Act Now Education?
I would say it has to be a little over a year now.
Wow, time flies
Yeah,
quick, huh?
yeah. You don't even notice it.
Yeah, man, it's been over a year and a half for me as well. And I remember when you came on board, man, it was like a breath of fresh air as far as getting someone that understands the IT space. And as far as IT in itself, I know you work at IT security, but what would you like for folks out there to know about the industry and how that field can be an ideal transition for folks as exiting the military?
I would say first thing is to understand that IT is like broad. There's different avenues within IT that you could go down. A lot of times people say IT, then they say cybersecurity, then they say policy. There's different avenues. So it's really just understanding what's your flavor. Do you like to be more hands-on? Do you like to be more, logical and, think things through, what kind of then you might want to go into the governance kind of space, or Do you like to do penetration tests, and do like the cool ethical hacking, or the person that's on the other side reading through, parsing through logs, thinking of ways to kind of defend against that? You have to know those avenues. So that's one. And then the other thing is you know, being open to like relocating um, to a spot that's going to be more beneficial to you. A lot of times I notice people don't want to move when it comes down to IT. They'll say, I want to get a job in Georgia. I want to get a job in Florida doing IT. The best place to do IT is DC, Maryland, Virginia. That's where you
Right.
want to be. That's where you want to do IT at, because they are going to pay you a reasonable salary or hourly rate, but it's going to be way better than what you're making in pretty much the 47 other states. You're going to make more money in that area. So you have to be open to kind of, moving. A lot of times people don't want to move and get out of their comfort zone, but that's where you want to be. Um, and then three, degree versus certifications. It's always like a thing in IT. Both of them are pieces of paper. It's how you kind of take those pieces of paper and add value to them. Just like a dollar, you add value to a dollar. That's why it's worth something. So if you got that certification, make it worth something. If you have the degree, make it worth something. It's interchangeable. If you're going to go into Fed space, security plus baseline, get security plus. If you're going to go into the commercial space, they're a little bit more open to IT certifications. So you don't have to just, it doesn't have to just be Security Plus. Um, they look into, whatever other certifications that are IT based, whether it be like the CISPs or the CISMs, they look at all those other certs that are not like DoD 8570, requirements. So you have a little bit more leeway, but they also kind of like look into your education background, rather than experience. Whereas on the federal side, they're more concerned about DoD 8570. Do you have the certifications? And then maybe your experience. It'll play a role, but it's usually how it goes. So I would say those three things.
Wow, that's fascinating, man. I'm surprised to hear that the DC Virginia area is the most ideal place for IT. I would assume that like Silicon Valley or some kind of technological area, geographical area would be more ideal. So I was a little surprised to hear that. And as far as you being a ethical hacker, which is what it says on your LinkedIn, can you explain what exactly that is?
So essentially, you have your hackers that are trying to break into your phone, send you phishing emails saying, "Hey, click this and win $1 million," and then I lock your computer. Well, on the ethical hacker side of things, it's more of testing to make sure that the proper controls, so to speak, are in place, so that things like that don't happen. Organizations aren't, falling victim to, ransomware or denial of services where their site's just down or their network's down because some malicious group in whatever country decides that, hey, we don't like your product, we're just gonna hack you, or we don't like your company, we're just gonna hack you, or we just have alternative motives and we're just gonna hack you. So my job is kind of to simulate those
Mm-hmm.
um, and test corporate environments, um, basically their security, to see if they're prepared for those kind of events. And then kind of giving them insight, generating reports, showing them like, hey, you could fall victim to this. This is how I can show you how it's done. Here's a report outlining all your vulnerabilities. And then I'll hand it to you. You decide how you want to fix that. And if you want to fix that, is the risk worth it or not? If it is, I can tell you how to fix it, and then go from there. Or you have your IT staff, your service desk, your network engineers, your software engineers, and they come in and basically fix your issue. But it's identified through ethical hacking.
Are the terms black hats and white hats? Is that what that is basically? Folks who are on the evil side and folks that are on the good side of hacking? Is that sort of where that comes from?
In a sense, yeah, that's kind of like where it comes from. Um, and they have different names for it all. Nation state actors, script
Mm,
kiddies, which are just a script kiddie could be some 16-year-old that just doesn't like say they don't like McDonald's. They're gonna
mm.
go and they're gonna just run a script, and they don't know what it does. They just saw online that it'll make your website go down, and they just press the button. Those are your script kiddies, which are pretty much the bulk of them outside of like nations kind of doing their thing.
Over the span of the last year or so, I've had quite a few cyber tech folks as guests. And even for me, um, on the outside, not really in that space, I've learned a lot about cyber tech and IT security and the many number of jobs that are available within the industry itself. And like you mentioned earlier, you've got folks that are more technical, as far as more involved with the IT stuff, whether it's ethical hacking or IT security, or it's more sounds like more HR, like human resources, where you're managing folks that do the IT technical side of things. And it's amazing how big the field is in itself. Um, Now, when you transitioned out of the military, did you start out in IT as soon as you got out?
Yes, as soon as I got out, and they actually found me. I
Oh,
didn't have
nice.
to. Yeah, it was an
Wow.
interesting scenario.
So yeah, so what obstacles did you run into? Whether it was an obstacle that you ran into or you stumbled in within your first week or your first few days of working, that you didn't really foresee when you were preparing for that military career transition.
The first obstacle was onboarding. Where when you're in the military, you have like your sponsor, right? Someone's gonna go
Hmm.
there, hold your hand. Hey, you need to go, set up your pay. You need to go make sure that you have your papers squared away. This is where you're gonna be staying. This is gonna be your manager. You have all of that. When I transitioned, that was like the biggest puzzle. I'd sit there and it's like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do today. Like they're like, hey, you're gonna have a person that's gonna call you to help you on board. And then, when you're in the service, you're pretty prompt, right? You check time, hey, it's 15 minutes till they're late. And then, 30 minutes later, you're like, okay, they're still not here. I don't know what to do. Who do I call? All this,
Right.
everything is like unknown. And then
Right.
you're just figuring it out, like, what health benefits do I got to choose? What dental insurance? Which one do I pick? I don't know. Never
Right.
had to think about that. So there's a lot of decisions you have to make that weren't common. Like you're just so used to just getting everything handed to you, you don't even realize it. That's the crazier part.
Yeah, even in the intro of this podcast, that's something that I address. At the intro of this podcast, I talk a really brief intro where I say, in the military, you're given a uniform, told where to be, what to do, but what happens when that cadence fades and you're no longer wearing that uniform? Who's going to tell you to pivot when it's time to pivot? Who's going to tell you to step off when it's time to step off? It's sort of up to you at that point, right? When you're a civilian, and that kind of takes some getting used to because you're used to that mentorship, right?
Hmm.
But it's really not there in the civilian world. So that could be. I understand where you're coming from because I dealt with the same thing too when I first started my job outside the military. I kind of expected for there to be some left seat, right seat training going on, and it really didn't come. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, figure it out for yourself, right? Um, so within the IT field, how can someone position themselves as an ideal leader within the IT space, that would also have been skills that were utilized in the military?
I would say naturally you're going to have those leadership skills. But it's all about your approach. In the military, it's more like you have to do this, you have to do that. Whereas once you're out, it's more or less what makes more sense at this time based on budget, based on you have to take in. your team's, livelihood and, feelings. Because if they quit, you're down another person, and then that means extra work for you. And then, there's a lot of strings you have to, pull. But when I would say take that leadership aspect, and then go in with a plan. Everything that I did, I had to make sure I had a plan. So when I came on, coming out, I was like, I have the leadership skills, but you know, I'm dealing with people who the only thing they care about is their job and their paycheck. That's the only thing they care about. They don't care about, whether you like the work that they put together. They don't care about any of that. It's
Mm.
about their job and their paycheck because it's a sense of security. So you have to add value. So you have to say, hey, I understand that you like to do this. So I'm going to help you on my team specifically do that because I know that's your strong suit. And then they'll do that, they perform that job. And I say, hey, okay, I like the way that you're doing that. You're doing it well. I want to put you into this other role because I think it's going to benefit the team. And then they say, hey, you know what? Teamwork makes the dream work. And I start saying things to kind of get in there. And I always say, teamwork makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then sooner than later, they start sending me, text, hey, teamwork makes the dream work. I'm like, okay, it means I'm doing something right. So you have to take into account like the skills your skill sets, because a lot of times people get put in positions that aren't, good for them, or they're not prepared for. I'm a firm believer of training, 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 training. If you want to be a network engineer, know the ins and outs of, operating network, crawl, walk, run. And if I can identify that as a pain point for a team member or something like that, then I'll focus on that. But instead of trying to force them into a role, I try to force them in the direction that I know is going to be beneficial to them based on what they want to do.
Yeah, man. You know what, Mario? I really haven't had a chance to talk to you all that much. Even though we are on the board together, we log in every month and we discuss a lot of Act Now education things that are coming up. But you remind me of a very quiet yet strong NCO that when you speak, you're heard. And the fact that you just described your own type of leadership of challenging folks and putting them out there, and some of the things you just mentioned right now, as far as like the little short motivational quirks, I do the same thing too. And like even in the beginning, when I say warriors fall in, it's time for formation. Like that's something that I used to say. I used to say warriors. So I don't know if you remember the whole warrior ethos thing that they came out with,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a joke, right? So I used to say warriors, and I still do that today whenever I'm even around my own coworkers. I'll walk up to a group of them and say warriors or whatever, and I don't know. It's funny, but it's also kind of me in a way, because even when we were running and doing double time, and I would say little short things to try to motivate folks, like, oh, keep on going, keep moving, we're almost home, things like that, and I think that's definitely part of your NCO, that you were when you were in the military, that you brought along with you into the IT field right now. Now, as far as strategies, what would you advise someone to consider if they were to begin their journey into becoming part of the IT career field? And the reason I ask that is because it can be very intimidating. There's so many different certifications out there. There's so many different positions and opportunities. What strategies would you give someone or advise to someone if they were to consider to begin their journey into becoming part of the field that you're in right now?
I would say if they're going to try to begin their journey, instead of focusing on the certification, focusing on the the educational side of it.
Mm.
What the certification, like I said, it's the paper, it's there. Rather than, like, oh, let me just jump to a boot camp or something like that. I mean, it depends how people learn. Some people learn faster than others. But if you're just jumping into it and you really want to understand it, you have to actually try to understand it. Not something that you're going to brain dump after you take the test and just say, hope I could get this job. It's, take time to learn what the basics are. if you're going to do something in like the help desk space, but you suck at technology, you suck at using computer, you don't know your mouse from your keyboard, start to understand, okay, the mouse, what is it there for? Why do I need to use it? You know, what function does it provide? How does that add value? All right, I know what the mouse is. Keyboard, what function does it provide? Computer, what function does it provide? Can I take this computer apart and put it back together? Can I start to, use some critical thinking to kind of understand how a computer works? Okay, I got that down. Now it's time to move on to networking. How do I understand the network? If you don't want to be a network engineer, that's fine, but understand the basics. You
Right.
know, how do I, how does the internet work? How do I get to this website? Like, what's the logic behind that? So it's just understanding um, the high levels and breaking them down into those, basic components. And if you can understand the basics, then you could always build on that. Because I would say, that's the biggest issue a lot of people that try to go into IT face is that they skip the foundation. They're just like, I'm just going to build a mansion on top of this. And
Mhm.
it's just the ocean and they sink,
Right.
and then they have to learn through sink or swim. But, if they build a solid foundation, understanding, all right, this works this way because this works because that, all of this works based on this. And then they start adding things on top. The next thing you know, they're like the IT guru. Everyone's like, "Hey man, this man just knows everything about everything. How does he know that?" That's how that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said right now about just the self discovery of getting the training. Act Now Education offers a lot of free certifications, a lot of free training to find that self discovery, that self career discovery on whether or not you want to do something or not. And like you said, getting the foundation is absolutely paramount, right? So even for me, I'm just going to share this real quick. I wasn't sure a few years ago if I wanted to get into real estate. I took I took and passed all of the real estate courses, and then I scheduled to take the state exam to become a real estate agent. And I decided not to go through with it because after going through the three different courses, passing all the exams, I just realized like this isn't for me. Like I'm not doing this for the right reasons, and I don't think I would actually keep my head in the game and really have much passion for this. So I decided not to go that route. And here I am today talking to you, podcasting, because I felt like this was something that I really wanted to do instead. So I think it's a great opportunity. It goes hand in hand with what you said for Act Now Education and what we're offering on there as far as the certifications and the countless IT security certs that we offer on there. I think it's a great spot for folks in the military to take into consideration to at least do that self-discovery for their career. And Mario, for the time that you've been with Act Now Education over the last year or so, which now you're a board member, which I think is absolutely awesome. Um, and I think it's awesome because it's great to have folks that are passionate like you, who I can tell really care about reaching back and helping the community. The time that you've been with Act Now Education, from what you've witnessed, how has the group changed lives from what you've witnessed?
Um, I mean, I've seen, the give or take, you could say that the testimonials speak for themselves. I'm seeing, the metrics, right? Because I'm updating the site, and seeing how a lot of people are taking, going through those Coursera courses or, saying, hey, I got the bookkeeping cert, or, I'm, I've gotten this job here and I've gotten this job there, or I didn't even know this information. That's good to have, and then you have this, the community, right? So if an Act Now member, we're few but strong, but the group is strong in terms of answering those questions like, hey, yeah, we saw a post about this the other time. I'm gonna give you this information, and they start talking about their personal experiences, and then guess what? Oh yeah, you know what? I do have a job at this place that I
Mhm.
can send your way. So it's legit a community, right? Of helping people, and I think since I've seen it from like the point where I came in until even just now, I just see just the steady growth um, and the value that it just brings. Because every single time I see someone, with a question and they get their answer, or they even find a resource that they've been looking for and just didn't even know existed. And like, oh man, this is a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps.
It truly,
That was
it truly is a one-stop shop. Even if you go onto the Facebook group and if you simply have a question on there, I mean, one of the mods a lot of times won't even have to log in. It'll be another person from within the community that will have an answer for someone else if someone posts a question regarding, career and career transition. So it truly is a community in itself where it's not necessarily driven by the mods and the board members and the administrators, but also with each other. Everyone in there, we try to create this community where folks are helping folks within the military community out. And I think it's outstanding that Jay has built what we have today. And I really appreciate you, Mario, for helping us grow. I can tell you that over the span of the last year or so, we've accelerated so much because of board members like you who decided to spend like all these countless hours. I know Yasmin George has told me before, like how much work you've put into it. And I really appreciate that and everything that you've done for Act Now Education. But for folks out there that might be interested in following up with you, Mario, what social media platforms can they find you on, like LinkedIn or Facebook or anything like that? And is it okay for them to email you?
So totally okay for them to email me, and LinkedIn is probably the easiest spot. Just shoot me a message, and then I'll just write back, or maybe after the podcast you can drop my email in there, and that way if they want to connect on LinkedIn, it works. I'm usually pretty responsive for whatever questions I get asked. I mean, it doesn't ever bother me, especially if I know I'm helping someone. Uh, Even if it's a crazy question, I'll still answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll make sure that I put your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn link over here, on the description. So if you are listening to this on the audio, you want to scroll down to the show notes at the bottom and you'll find, Mario's LinkedIn, add him to your connections on there, as well as his email address will be down there as well. If you are watching this on YouTube, scroll down to the descriptions, same deal there. So Mario, before we wrap up today's episode, is there any other pieces of advice that you'd like to mention or share with the folks out there who are listening to this podcast? Maybe it's life advice, career advice, Act Now education advice, any kind of piece of advice that we didn't talk about today.
I would say a piece of advice, and it was something that actually two pieces of advice. The first one that I ever got, and it was when I was going to the University of New Mexico, and that was Potentia Scientia Es, which stands for knowledge is power. That means so much because the more you know, the more you can do, right? So that's one. And then two, another great piece of advice I received from someone was that motivation lasts a day, but inspiration lasts a lifetime. So I don't focus on trying to help people by motivating them. I try to, have a lasting impression. So I want to inspire them, and then they can inspire somebody else, and let it spread like wildfire.
We definitely need more of that. We really do. I was just talking to someone the other day about mentoring and being an inspiration to folks. And in the same token, folks need to be more open to receiving mentorship and receiving help and receiving assistance and not being so hard-headed about some things. And that includes myself too, right? So, and I guess that's why I'm here and that's why you're here, is so that we can reach back and help out the military community. But Mario, I really appreciate you stepping out from behind the curtain where the machine actually happens, which is Act Now Education. And I appreciate you being part of the board member with me, the board member group with me. I think we have a very powerful team that's led by Jay Salters. Sometimes I don't know how his back is so strong and how the man gets any sleep at night, really. He seems like he's always awake and he's always active and he's always doing stuff. But appreciate you being part of the board, and I appreciate you giving me the time and opportunity to get to know you more today. I've learned a lot about you, and it's nice to see another person on the board was in the Army too, because we're inundated with Navy people, right?
Yeah, I know, right? But
So
definitely thanks.
yeah, no, thank you so much. And for folks out there listening, connect with Mario, find him on LinkedIn, definitely pick his brain. He's also a certified project manager, Scrum Master as well. So the man has many different facets to him, not just IT or anything like that, but he's an ethical hacker and he also works in IT security. So reach out to him, get some advice, some career advice, and connect with him on LinkedIn when you get a chance. For everyone else out there, I want you to stay tuned, stay focused, and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out. You've been listening to the Morning Formation Podcast. I hope you found today's materials helpful and of value to your current situation. You can connect with me on Instagram at the_morning_formation_podcast, or you can connect with me via email at theformationpodcaster@gmail.com. Also, I would like to thank my partners at Act Now Education for their support. Authenticity, community, and trusted is what you can expect from all members of the Act Now Education team. You can link up with them today and learn about some new free educational resources on their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or at their website, actnoweducation.com. Whether today's show took you back to a nostalgic time or helped you think about tomorrow, thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again. Stay safe and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out.